Welcome everyone. My name is Nina Kati and I am Ireland's leading Feng Shui interior design consultant, educator and speaker. And I help clients by working very closely with them. That might be homeowners, it might be builders, it might be architects and business people. And I help them to become happier, healthier and wealthier, and I empower them to live their best life and shine. So I hope that you're going to learn something from today's talk, and I can't wait to talk to you about all the things that I focus on. And my main focus is all about positivity, transformation and fulfillment. So welcome today, and happy Valentine's Day as well. So I wanted to start by talking about the difference between the Lunar New Year and the Feng Shui New Year. So Feng Shui New Year takes place on the 4th of February, and it's all about the first day of spring. And this is when it's like nature's switches on, and all the energy around us becomes so much more active and dynamic. And what it means is that nature kicks in and it starts to encourage the growth of plants. It puts out the energy there for the big growth spurt that happens before summer. So that's what Feng Shui New Year is actually all about. It's all about those energies surging up and us taking advantage of those. So now is the right time to be doing all of those jobs around the place, getting rid of the clutter, which I'm going to talk about later on, particularly your mind clutter more so than anything else. And obviously doing a few bits and pieces around the house that will refresh that energy as well in the home. So I'm going to tell you lots about that. What I want to say is that I have around a half an hour to talk to you today, and I want to give you an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So, you know, what you can do in the meantime is there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and if you hit that and put in your question, and what it relates to, that's very important, so I actually do understand what the question is about, then I can answer those questions at the end. And we have about 15 minutes for the question and answer session, so it's highly interactive in that sense. I'm going to be covering quite a lot of topics, and I'm also going to try, if we have time, to run a little slideshow and explain to you about the transformation of the interiors that I'm going to show you in that slideshow. So I think that might be of interest to a lot of you as well. So first and foremost, what can we do to refresh the energies in our homes for the new year? And the first thing I would suggest we do is take the very simple task of going shopping and getting in a few products first. Firstly, buy in some white running table salt, very ordinary white table salt that you buy in the grocery store. No big deal. Buy a big bag of it, at least one big bag, if not several. And buy a bag of red onions, and also a bottle of distilled white vinegar. I'm sure all of you have these things in your cupboards already. And also, if you can, a little pot of bicarbonate soda. That's the most important stuff you can have in your house, other than fresh lemons, some dried bay leaves, and some lavender, dried lavender buds. There's nothing better than those products for simplicity reasons. And what I would suggest you do is change your doormats or wash them. Make sure that the energy that's on those doormats that's been traipsed in all through last year is now either washed out or replaced with new mats. So brand new doormats is the first thing on the list. Second thing is to go around the house and get all of the round bowls that you have that are made from either wood or ceramic or glass. Very simple job now. And all you're going to do is pour salt into those vessels and put them directly on the floor in the corners of every room in the house. I just use old jam jars if I'm stuck for containers. And all you have to do is make sure that the mouth of the bowl is wide open and that the salt can actually interact with the atmosphere. And the point of this is to ensure that you're cleansing the energies in the home. You're actually refreshing and renewing and changing out the old energy to the new energy. And it'll only take a short time to take effect, around 2 weeks maybe. But the wonderful thing about it is it brings back the yin and yang balance in the house. And salt is the heaviest thing on the planet. So it helps to ground the energies in your home. And if you do that for every single room in your house, whether it's a walk-in wardrobe, your bathrooms, your en-suites, storage cupboards where there's a full door on them, that sort of thing. Make sure that you obviously treat this as if there is a proportion going on. So if it's a very large room, you might use 8 bowls. If it's a very small room, you might only use 3 or 4. That's the first thing I would suggest. And the second thing to do is to make sure that you've sliced your red onions in half and use them, again, one in every corner of every room in the house. And what onions do is they absorb all the toxins in the air. And that's something I really want to go into a little bit of detail about with you as well today, is the indoor microbiome of the house itself. And that indoor biome actually is exactly like our own physical biome, our gut biome. And it's about making sure that that is actually as clean and as detoxed as possible. So leave your half an onion out in the corners of each room, and that will help to absorb the toxins in the atmosphere. Within 2 hours, most of those toxins will have been absorbed by the onion. But you can leave the onion there for the rest of the day or till the following day and then throw it away. And the same with the salt. What you want to do with the salt is you want to leave it in place for a minimum of 6 weeks to begin with. And then thereafter, just do it every 3 months. But it's the perfect way to keep the energy in the home nice and balanced, nice and calm, and very much the yin and yang balance is there for the whole family to benefit from. So the next thing that I want to talk to you about is exactly what happens with our homes today, because of course we're all living in sealed homes. And with a sealed home, what happens is if there's no proper circulation of fresh air in the home, all the toxins and all the chemicals within the indoor environment build up. And where do those toxins and chemicals come from? They're off-gassed from all the artificial materials and synthetic fibers that are within our home, all the building materials that also leach chemicals into the indoor air. And believe it or not, this contributes to an awful lot of very serious illness, including lung cancer, dementia, all kinds of issues like asthma and other kinds of illnesses as well that are really quite serious. So the important thing is to refresh the oxygen supply and the air in the home itself on a very regular basis. And I say that because carbon dioxide is also prone to building up within our homes as well. So we need to make sure that we get rid of the carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide is associated with death and dying, and oxygen is associated with life and living. So make sure that you air your home thoroughly every single day, particularly before you go to bed at night. Make sure that you air your bedroom and get the oxygen into the room. That's very, very important, because you're sleeping in that room all night long. And what you want to make certain of is that there's no carbon dioxide getting into your system, that it's all oxygen only. So make sure that you have, I'll just move my screen slightly back. Make sure that you have as much oxygen as possible in the home. This will make a massive difference to the health of the whole household, because our most important function is breathing. And if we don't get the oxygen down into our organs and into our system, then how can we live? How can we have energy? How can we be active or dynamic? So it's really, really important that we make sure that we're breathing well, and that means breathing down deep into the belly itself, and make sure that you breathe in through your nose and out through the nose. There's no point in breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. That is not actually breathing properly. So make sure that you hold that breath, and that you make all that oxygen work hard down there in the bottom of the lungs and stay there for a few minutes before you actually release it again. So as long as you can hold your breath is really good to get that oxygen into you. And where you're feeling very sluggish and slow and you're lacking dynamism and vitality, it's because you're low on oxygen. Another really, really important thing to do is to hydrate our systems. And the best way you can do that is not just to drink lots and lots of water, but do not drink from plastic water bottles. It's really important that the plastic, unfortunately, leaches the chemicals from the plastic into the water, and you're actually just drinking poison. So make sure to get yourself a glass container. I have one here actually, and it's a very simple glass container, and it has, as you can see, a jacket on it. It's also got a little holder for the lid, and the jacket can be removed and washed, and the water is inside. And you can see that it's very easy to drink from that, because the mouth of it is quite open as well, and you can just put the lid back on and carry it with you. But be sure to refresh that with fresh water every so often, because again, the oxygen is in the water. And when you do put the water in those glass bottles, be sure to put some pink Himalayan salt in as well with the water. And what happens is water on its own will just wash out all the nutrients out of the body. But when you add pink Himalayan salt to the water, it remineralizes and reinvigorates the body. And what it also does is it makes us very alert, very attentive, and very energetic. And it also helps the memory. It brings back the yin and yang balance, and it cleans out the system. You will actually find this one of the best ways to detox the body. So drink plenty of water. You need to be drinking around 3 liters a day. And you need to stop eating 4 hours before you go to bed at night. Very, very important. Feng Shui is concerned, and specifically authentic Feng Shui, which is what I do. It's very concerned with the health of the body, the health of the home, and then following that, the health of your relationships and family harmony. Because without those two things, if we don't have our health and we don't have good relationships, then our lives won't go as well as they should. And don't worry about all the other things, opportunities, good luck, fortune, and money. All of that will come later. As so long as you have good health and you have good relationships, then you will flourish. I suppose one of the easy things to say here as well is that all of those products that I've recommended that you buy are so, they're all natural, they're easy to use. White vinegar, for instance, cleans glass beautifully. So you needn't be, worrying about how your windows look. It'll turn everything around for you. And don't forget, the windows are like the eyes. The whole house takes on the same as the body. The stomach, the liver, all of the different organs within your body are situated within the rooms in your home. So this is why Feng Shui affects us so dramatically and so directly. And we're interacting with that energy all the time. So if the energy is dirty or stagnant or slow, then that's what's going to happen to our body as well. So re-energize by lots of oxygen in the air, lots and lots of cleaning that you should be doing at the start of the year. It's important to keep that going as well. But make sure as well that you take your shoes off at the front door. Never wear your outdoor shoes indoors. And this is actually very closely related to the COVID issue at the moment as well. We should not be bringing in anything on the soles of our shoes, such as bacteria. I mean, you don't know what's on the ground that you're walking on. And all of that dirty energy, let alone all of that bacteria and all of those viruses that you're carrying in on the soles of your feet are being walked around your home. So no matter how clean you keep your home, there's no point if you're going to wear outdoor shoes in the house. So take your shoes off at the door and be sure to close the doors within your home quietly. Make sure that all the handles are working properly, that the hinges are oiled. Doors relate specifically to mouths. And in fact, the front door is the mouth of the house. And the back door is the backside, and we have a mouth and we have a backside. So there's no point living in a house with just a front door only and no back door. If you have that problem, you should be contacting someone like me. And if you've only got a front door and a side door, then again, we don't have a mouth and a side door. We have a mouth and a backside. And there's a reason for that. All the nutrients and all the nourishment should be coming in the front door, and all the toxins and the waste should be going out the back door. And this is what makes sure that we actually can operate at the right level, that we can function properly, that our brain can think straight, that we can make decisions. We've got headspace. We can think clearly, act decisively, and be productive and be positive. And it's very hard to be positive. It's very hard to give up smoking or alcohol or whatever, lose weight. All of those things will be much more difficult if you only have a side door or no back door at all. So the next thing I wanted to mention as well is that, our homes, as soon as we walk into our home, we're oblivious to an awful lot of the smells and the look of the place, because of course we're living with it all the time. Whereas if you have someone like me come along, I'm going to know right away from the moment I get to the front door whether there's mold growth in the house and fungi growing, whether or not what you've eaten for dinner last night. Whether or not the energy is good or bad. I can even tell what you are eating just from your scent alone. I have a very sensitive nose. And the good news about that is that I can tell straight away if there are serious issues within the home because of it. But first and foremost, we must control the level of damp in the house. It's very, very important that we don't have too high a level of humidity. And we live in a very damp climate. And damp builds up in the body. And this is why we get an awful lot of arthritis. inflammation builds up on the body. So again, drinking that water with the salt in it will keep the inflammation down. And if you eat lots of onions and garlic, that will also help to keep the inflammation down. But make sure, if you can, that you get the opportunity to spend time out in the sun, especially when the warm weather comes. Spend time out soaking up the sunshine, not just for vitamin D, but because we want to dry out the lungs, dry out the body. We live in such a damp climate that we actually suffer from what's known as the damp condition. So drying out the body is really important. And that also means that when you think about the body and the home and the relationship between the two, that we need to ensure that the home environment isn't too damp either. So make sure if you have a damp house, perhaps there's a build-up from laundry drying and a lot of steam from a lot of boiling and so on, make sure that you have a dehumidifier that you can switch on and take the damp out of the indoor climate so that there is no mold growth. Air your bedrooms first thing in the morning when you wake up, throw back the covers on the bed, and make sure that you release all of the water that leaves our body during the night from our lungs as well as from perspiration. Make sure that you get all of that out of the room and you leave your bedroom as dry as possible. And if that means plugging in a dehumidifier for a short time, it won't cost you that much to run one. The other thing is that an awful lot of people are suffering from stress and anxiety and that lack of positivity. And the reason for that is that the toxins are built up in the body. So yes, it is very difficult, isn't it, to say no to sugar, especially at the moment. We're all spending more. At one time, we spent 80% of our time indoors. Now we're actually spending 98% of our time indoors. And that's why I'm talking about that indoor biome. That's why I'm talking about the indoor atmosphere and the air and the oxygen in the air, because we're spending so much time indoors with the weather being bad and being that it's wintertime. And the only way to get rid of toxins is to either do a detox or to limit how much you're putting into your bodies in the way of either poor diet or food that's full of toxins. So eat a clean diet. One of the best and most healthy diets you could possibly eat is porridge in the mornings, followed by if your main meal is during the day, you can choose whether it's in the evening, obviously, or at lunchtime. So I can tell you about your light meal, which should be a soup. Soup is very easy to digest. It means that you're not using up too much energy to digest that food. And that means that you've got more energy for more activities. Yes, there is gluten in soup, and it can be soup. If you buy it in the supermarket, obviously it's not going to be as fresh and as toxin-free perhaps as soup that you make for yourself. But it's very easy to make soup, and it's very cheap. It's actually something that you can save money with as well. So soup is really highly nutritious and very, very good for anybody who's got a compromised immune system or who's feeling very low in themselves. Your main meal should be really something like steamed salmon, steamed vegetables, and plenty of grain. Make sure you eat grain. And the more cooking you do, the more you improve the family harmony. And again, this goes back to what I was saying about doors and making sure that doors operate properly, because doors relate to the mouths of the home. So all the interior doors, make sure that people are not slamming a door every time they leave a room. Teenagers are very bad for that. Make sure that doors are closed quietly, and that where they should be closed, they're kept closed, like, for instance, on the door to the toilet or the ensuite. The energy in those spaces is toxic energy, and it should not mix with the other areas of the house. So keep the doors to en-suites and toilets closed at all time. Make sure you put the lid down on the toilet. Never flush the toilet without putting the lid down, because if you don't, what will happen is all of that disgusting contents in the toilet is spread around the room. All that bacteria ends up on your toothbrush, and you're brushing your teeth with it. So keep the toxins and keep the bacteria down within the home. Put the lid down before you flush. And actually, that's been proven in scientific experiments. And in fact, some teenagers won Best Scientist of the Year award because they did a study on that to prove that that fact is correct. So lid down on the toilet. The other reason for doing this is because you want to minimize the impact that the flush has on the household. Every time you flush the toilet, you're flushing away the money and the health in the household. So limit the number of times you flush the toilet. Keep it to just maybe every third time, or only flush when necessary. And obviously you're trying to avoid not flushing frequently, because if you do leave it too long, then obviously the paper is going to jam up the toilet and block it, and it's going to cost you to get someone else out to fix that. So make sure that you limit the times that you're flushing the toilet, but that you don't leave it too long. Toilets actually are wasting and draining on a home's energy. So again, every time you flush, what you're doing is you're reducing down the health of the household. It means more visits to the doctor, more payment for prescriptions, a lot more occasions when you're going to be asking, what's wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. I can't find out what it is. And I definitely don't feel well. And yet every time I go and get a test done, nothing is found. And there's a good reason for that. That's because there are too many things sapping the energy in the home. And so your energy and your health energy is getting sapped as well. So be careful not to, eat too many toxins, flush the toilet too often, or bang and slam doors around the house. And if you really want to improve family harmony, especially now that we're all sharing our spaces with other people that we're not used to spending so much time with, and obviously they're not necessarily the tidiest people in the world, they're not necessarily the quietest people in the world, they're all trying to perhaps work and study in the same space. So that means that the stress and the anxiety levels are higher. So improve the family harmony by cooking. Cooking is one of the best things you can do. Make sure you boil, stew, steam, fry, or poach your food. Anything you do in the grill or the oven really doesn't have much impact on the health of the occupants of the household. But the more that you do on the hob, the more harmony you're creating. And don't forget that the kitchen has the highest vibration in the house. So everything you do in the kitchen has a much higher impact than what happens in the rest of the house. So in other words, if you're going to be doing a lot of cooking, what happens is it burns up the bad energy, it burns up the ill luck and the misfortune, the propensity for having accidents and for things going wrong. So the more cooking you do, the healthier the relationships you have in your life, the more the opportunities come to you, the greater the harmony in the household, the more luck. So, and again, your immune system is obviously benefiting from your cooking as well. Obviously, the other thing to mention here is try and limit the amount you do in the way of fried food. Boiling, poaching, stewing, steaming, all of that is actually much, much better for us. With the vibrations in the kitchen being so high, that's not the place to have an argument. And unfortunately, the likelihood of having an argument in the kitchen is much greater because of that vibration. So if you have skylights in the kitchen, for instance, it will actually pull the fire energy up through the room. And those families, unfortunately, who have skylights in the kitchen will be more likely to have very sudden, very intense arguments, family arguments and couples as well, of course. That will be quite intense and very sudden, but they won't last for long. But unfortunately, in that period of time, a lot will be said, and a lot of people will find that they're left smarting afterwards from feeling a bit wounded, perhaps, from what's been said. So if that happens, make sure you put blinds in those skylights and pull down the blinds so that it minimizes the impact that the Veluxes are having on the kitchen. It's better if the Veluxes are away, perhaps in the dining room or in other rooms in the house. They don't have the same impact elsewhere. So, cooking and food is obviously going to have a big impact on the not just the harmony and the immune system, but if you're eating the right foods, lots of green vegetables, particularly at the moment with lockdown, with the amount of stress and anxiety that we have, the fact that everything is perhaps getting a little bit, intense for everyone. Right now is a good time to be really increasing the grain in your diet to ensure that your system is working properly and that you're getting rid of all of the waste in your system. It's not building up, because that is adding to the anxiety and the stress. And those toxins, if they're leaving the body, then naturally enough, you're going to feel a lot better. You're not going to be putting on the weight the same way as you would if you're stuck at home, unfortunately, looking at the four walls. Another trick actually for losing weight without even having to go on a diet is very simple. You just take a glass of water and put a little sugar in it, stir it up and sip that glass of water, but don't swallow it, spit it out. And what happens is when the body senses that it's going to get sugar, it goes wild. It immediately goes into overdrive, ready to burn the sugar up as fast as possible. But if you haven't actually swallowed it, then it means that the body's going to go into the burning fat phase that it should be in to reduce fat in the body. So it's a really good way. It's a way of tricking the body into thinking that you're about to take sugar into your system, but instead you're not actually consuming the sugar. but make sure to rinse the mouth out with the salt afterwards, because if you don't, you're obviously going to be still exposing your teeth to the sugar in the water. So I hope that's helpful for people who want a little tip on how to avoid, how to lose weight and get back into shape again. And obviously, you know, a walk in green surroundings is going to make a massive difference to people at the moment. Just 15 minutes every day minimum is enough to actually get the oxygen into the system, get the body working properly, and it will make sure that your digestive system, your nervous system, everything is working much, much better. And it does give you headspace. It really puts you back into a different frame of mind, much more positive, but particularly if it's in green surroundings, and particularly if you're either listening to nice music or having a lovely conversation with somebody. So I suppose, you know, we're coming up actually to nearly half an hour now, so I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about sleep as well, because I think it is a very big issue now that our routine is gone, now that, again, you know, it's difficult to get sleep if you're feeling anxious. So make sure that you have a headboard on the bed. That's one of the most important things you can do. You will not get support in your life unless you've got a headboard on the bed. And the more support and kindness and benevolence we have in our lives from others, the better our relationships will be, the more opportunities we'll have, the greater our luck will be. So make sure to have a headboard on the bed and sleep on your back with no pillow or a very low pillow. And the reason for that is because the central vertebrae is where all the energy in the body is stored. And it's responsible for your entire system. It means that you can stand up and you can sit down, you can move about. It means that you think better. Your thoughts will be much more positive. It's very important for the energy in the body to run fully through, top to bottom, without any problems. And if you have a pillow under your head, unfortunately, not only will you spoil your posture, but on top of that, you will cut off the oxygen supply to the brain. And sleep on the back, because if you sleep on your left, you'll crush your heart. If you sleep on your right, you'll crush your liver. And that works 24/7 to keep everything working in our bodies. And if you sleep on your stomach, then again, you're cutting off the oxygen supply to the neck, to the brain, because your carotid artery is obviously being squashed. And on top of that, you're going to suffer more from the emotion of frustration because you're crushing your stomach. And all of those different organs that are in our body are responsible for the different emotions that we feel. The liver is responsible for anger, the stomach for frustration, the kidneys for fear and anxiety. So make sure that you're treating your organs well. You know, take that exercise, eat a balanced diet, and try not to eat between meals. A 4-hour gap is really good, and 4 hours before you go to bed at night so that you can sleep properly. So I just want to talk to you. I'm going to see if I can try and share my screen actually and show you my slideshow, if that's okay, because on that slideshow, you will see, and I'll just run through I'll just run through the slides there very quickly. I want you to see some before and afters, and I think it's really important that you can see what difference it makes. Of course, you know, when you start with the before, naturally enough, the before is literally the before. This is an apartment in Dublin that was gutted and redone. But when you see the after, what strikes you most is that, and I know this is not a finished interior and it is purely for a rental rather than for somebody to live in, but what strikes you most is that all of the furniture is either up off the floor or you can see through it, and it means that you're applying a much more lightweight look rather than something that's too heavy. And if you noticed, I've included a plant. Now, in this case, it's not a real plant, which is something I would have far rather put a real plant in. But biophilia, or introducing nature into the home, is absolutely essential. It can make up to 70% difference to our well-being, because plants give off oxygen. But don't have plants in bedrooms or fresh flowers in bedrooms at night, because what they do is they steal oxygen and they put carbon dioxide in instead. So plenty of plants in the home is really good. And also, please don't have plants in kitchens, because there is bacteria, of course, in the soil, and that shouldn't be mixed with a room where we're putting that energy into our bodies. So keep the bacteria away from the kitchen as much as possible. But plants really do contribute to our sense of well-being and to our oxygen levels, to everything. They are very much part of nature, and so we associate well with plants. Just to say that this is a before of a kitchen. And this actually is the after. And again, keep things very natural as much as possible. Introduce wood into your schemes. Make sure that you've got art on your walls. That shows that you're cultured, that you're intelligent, that you have appreciation and a value system that includes, handmade pieces and things that are made by another person lovingly. And if you can see that, you've got food out, that shows that you're interested in cooking. Make sure that everybody's facing each other at the table. I never put anybody at the head of the table or the foot of the table ever, because that means that there's going to be an imbalance. You want everybody to be balanced. You want conversation to flow. You want everybody to be on the same terms. And this is the best, most convivial way to set up a dining room. Your next image actually is of a kitchen, which is the same kitchen. It's just the other side of the room that you're seeing. But you can see the difference here. And I know this one actually was taken during the day. And believe it or not, this one is taken at nighttime. You can see the difference. Just lifting the color scheme, putting in a pattern that moves upwards and is uplifting and that introduces some color. You don't have to have too much color in a scheme, just enough to create lots of energy and energize the space as much as possible. And obviously, the other thing that you'll see here is the kitchen didn't really have to have an awful lot of money spent in it. And I know that people will be very interested in the fact that I do an awful lot of makeovers. And this actually is a makeover. That's all it is. Same with the other schemes. Everything that I do, I try and minimize costs for clients, because you don't have to spend a fortune on a scheme. They hadn't quite finished with using their oven, so they were going to plan on getting a new oven when it was time to do so. They didn't feel any pressure to change it now because some of the other elements in the scheme pulled in that green. And you can see that all we did was rejig some of the contents in the room, and I made sure that the tap, if you notice, the tap is not facing towards the hob. And that's very important, because if the tap faces towards the hob, fire and water don't mix, and it creates arguments in the home. Here's another before of a bedroom, very simple bedroom, not particularly unattractive necessarily from years ago. This is a very old scheme now, but just the fact that you've introduced not just a smaller headboard, but a large square headboard, something that can really make a difference to the room. It can, first of all, provide a focal point. Secondly, because it's square shaped, the shape of it is actually the shape of Earth. And that is really important, because that's what brings you really a very, very good night's sleep and a lot more luck in your life and better relationships. So a big square headboard would be a really good thing to do in a bedroom. And here's a sitting room. Again, straightforward enough sitting room. They were trying to make the best of what they had at the time. And this is the sitting room redone. Just a little bit of colour and introducing some seating that's seated opposite one another, so that you don't have anybody with their back to a door, and at the same time, and I mean an exit door in particular, to the house itself. And you also have everybody seated opposite one another for conversation reasons. So I hope that you've enjoyed that. I'll just stop sharing that now and get back to our questions and answers. So I'm going to see what there is in the way of questions and answer. Now these are really good questions. I'm just going to, let's see now. I'm going to tell you what the questions are and tell you a little bit with regard to the answer. So how to position your bed so that you can sleep better. Well, the first thing is never, ever position your bed against a wall behind which there's a toilet, or you will be putting you're literally putting your head down the toilet. Very, very serious for your health, and very, very serious for every aspect of your life, for the relationships in your life, for everything that you do. Nothing will go right for you if your head is down the toilet. And that goes for if the room behind the headboard of the bed is 20 rooms away. The fact that you're still facing your head in that direction is really incredibly serious. The salt that I was recommending for you to use in your water drink is the next question that I have here. So the water drink that you take should have pink Himalayan crystal salts added to it. But if you're buying salt for the house, it's the ordinary white table salt. Buy it in big bags. It's as cheap as chips, and it's available in all your grocery stores. So that's the salt question answered. The other thing is, yes, in some cases, it's going to be hard actually for people to use glass bottles at work. I can see that being an issue, all right. But, it's if you have mugs at work, it's as good as glass. Ceramic and glass are no different, really. Let's see what else we have. For the salt actually that you add to the water, make sure that you can add the salt in such a way as you can taste the salt in the water. You don't have to overwhelm it with salt because otherwise you'll be gagging. Make sure that you can taste the salt in the water. So, when I say a pinch, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon. And if you feel the cold, then make certain to add some salt. Add some warm water rather than cold water to that salt drink. I'm just trying to read your questions here, actually. Let's see now. Sorry about this. I'm just going to go down the screen and see who else has asked me questions. Drafts are actually a good thing in a house. Yes, somebody has asked me about drafts in a house. Of course, the reason being that it ventilates the home. So fresh ventilation is absolutely vital. Otherwise, what happens is if you are subject to too much in the way of chemicals and your immune system is under stress, you'll begin to suffer from illnesses. And again, dust, pet dander, chemicals, all those toxins in the indoor air, the CO2 levels, mold, all of that contributes to conditions such as asthma. And actually, you can be 40% more likely to get asthma. So keep that oxygen level high and keep the air as fresh as possible. So drafts are not really a big deal. Of course, they can be a bit uncomfortable, but just try and limit the drafts. Somebody here has asked me about a cold corner in the bedroom. I would recommend immediately putting a bowl of salt in that cold spot in the corner of the bedroom and trying a dehumidifier as well in case it's a damp issue. That's the first thing. That way you don't have to move. So, of course, if it's a situation like you're saying, you can't move the bed due to a fitted wardrobe, then naturally enough, it would be as well to try and tackle what the cold issue is. It could be that there's actually the wrong kind of energy in that situation. You might need to get an expert in to clear that energy. And also try and use, again, another question here is about the colour for bedrooms. Never, if you're married, use the colour peach. Peach or apricot in a bedroom when the couple are together is very serious because there's too much fire then in the relationship and then there would be problems. But if you are in need of healing and you've had a rough time or you're single, you want to introduce happier energy, perhaps it's an older person who's vulnerable or a young child, then pink is one of the best colours you can use when it comes to the interior, particularly in a bedroom, because pink is the first colour we see from within the womb itself. So pink is a colour that we associate with comfort and with warmth and with the energy of our mothers. So white vinegar actually is ideal. Somebody's asked me about white vinegar, what to use it for. If you look up some of the uses of bicarbonate of soda, white vinegar and lemon juice, you'll find amazing quick and easy ways to clean your ovens, clean your windows, clean your floors actually. And you can even add white vinegar to your laundry. It will actually take some of those old soap suds and old laundry detergent out of the texture of the fibres in the towels and in the bed linens. And also another point, actually, while I think of it, to mention to you, make sure that your bed linens are made from natural fibres, cotton, linen, and so on. Don't use synthetic fibres on the bed. Throw away anything that's only polycotton. You should be only having cotton, wool, and linen in your bedroom, or silk. Make sure that you keep everything as healthy and natural as possible. So we have other questions here. My God, there's so many questions. Somebody asked me earlier about plants and how to balance the use of plants in the indoor situation, in the indoor environment. And one of the things I would recommend is a Boston fern. And the reason I recommend that is it is scientifically proven that that plant in particular can combat the effects from computers. And we're all on our computers at the moment. We're all using Wi-Fi, we're using our mobile phones, and we're using computers so much more now than ever because, of course, being at home and using Zoom and so on. Make sure that you have lots of plants near computers. Don't put rock crystals near computers. Please don't believe a lot of what you read about in books, because it isn't correct to put crystals near computers. They only amplify the EMS, what is known as electromagnetic stress. Plants, on the other hand, soak all of that up. And what they do is they ionize the air. We actually need that in our lives. So plants are very, very good for that. But the Boston fern in particular has been proven scientifically to help with electromagnetic stress. This is actually going to be recorded, this talk. So what I'm delighted about is that because it's being recorded, you're going to have access to being able to listen to that talk afterwards. And that means that you won't have missed out when it comes to lots of tips on the Feng Shui of the home. Also, just remember that because I do authentic Feng Shui, some of the questions that have come in are about talking about the Bagua. But the Bagua actually that you read about, and the Feng Shui that we read about on the internet or in books in general, is very much hocus pocus, westernized Feng Shui. It isn't real Feng Shui. So be very cautious about what you believe that's written in books. One of the things that they recommend in books is, for instance, a very simple thing, is putting up mirrors right inside your hallway, opposite your front door, to attract energy. And if you do that, it's a taboo. It's a very, very serious taboo. You will end up with no good fortune, no luck, no harmony, nothing coming in through the front door in the way of opportunities. Your job will be at risk. Do not place a mirror in a hallway opposite the front door, please. It is the wrong thing to do. And in bedrooms as well, it will disturb sleep. So cover mirrors at night, or make sure, if it's unfortunately with an awful lot of these mirrored wardrobes, I would be recommending you either wallpaper them or hang voiles or curtains in front of them and pull them across at night. But mirrors, sadly, take all the energy out of a bedroom, and that's the one room where you need all the energy. So I hope that I'm answering all of the questions here. I don't have an issue with, somebody's asking a question about flooring here. I love wood floors. I think they're the best thing in the world, but we should really add rugs to wood floors to enhance the acoustics in the space and to make sure that we have a degree of comfort and warmth in the space. Plus, it introduces the opportunity to use colour and pattern as well. But make sure you vacuum every single week without fail, and that you wash your bed linens regularly, a minimum of every fortnight, if not every week. And wash your towel every second use. Because if you don't do that, then all of those dust mites and all of those bacteria that are building up will actually cause you a more serious problem. So keeping asthma at bay is also about hygiene in the house and about personal hygiene as well. I just want to see if there's anything else here. There's so much, and we're running out of time, so I'm being careful to see if I can try and answer some of your questions as quickly as I can. Somebody's asking me about Buddhas in your living room. Yes, anything in the way of a deity, if you like, or anything like, we'll say, a statue of the Virgin Mary, for instance. All of those deities, anything like that, should be respected. Never place them on the floor. They should be up higher on a surface so that you can make sure that they are respected and appreciated. So that's really all you can do about. And also the other thing, I suppose, that is nice is to ensure that you have those things outside of the bedroom. Don't put those things in bedrooms, because they have a tendency of being associated with all wonderful good things, and sometimes we're not up to good things in bedrooms. So we shouldn't be putting up pictures of our children in the bedroom. We shouldn't be putting in any statues of the Virgin Mary or pictures of Jesus Christ, because that is not conducive to the bedroom. You can keep them to other spaces. So I hope that I've answered all your questions, and maybe we've learned a bit today about what to do and what not to do. If there are any other things that you do want to know about, you can contact me. My website is ninakati.ie, and you can see that my number and my contact details will be at the end of the slideshow as well, and they'll be up on your screen, I hope, as well. I'm just going to try and come out of the questions section now. I hope that that's been useful for everybody, and that we have maybe enlightened you, answered your questions, and given you a real reason to refresh and bring up the energy in your homes for the new year, the year of the ox. If you want to hear more, please tune in to Sunshine Radio, where I'll be talking to Carol Dooley on a regular basis this coming year. I'm also giving a talk actually next Friday for Leash People on their podcast, and it's going to be a panel of people, which should be very interesting. And if you want to follow me on social media, please do. I'm just delighted to have this opportunity, and I cannot thank the organisers of the Dublin Lunar Chinese New Year Festival for inviting me on. So thank you very much indeed for that. And thank you to all of you for tuning in and listening. Please contact me anytime to inquire about my services. And I wish you all a very happy and healthy Chinese New Year, I should say Lunar New Year, to make sure that everybody is included, and also a very happy Feng Shui New Year, and all the best from me. Thank you so much. Bye for now.